And now we're going to bring in my man Johnny Rowe, our Kansas City insider and partner. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Thank you so much for having me on today. I'm looking forward to sharing some KC news with everybody. A lot's going on, and like always, the Royals are losing. So I can't wait to talk about this.
Well, before we get into all things Kansas City, I know that there is a topic near and dear to your heart, and that is the double bird to Rob Manfred. He is not. I don't think you'll be having cupcakes and apple juice with him anytime soon. But the Major League Baseball's decision to suspend Joe Kelly 8 games for throwing at Alex Bregman and Carlos Correa, that came down late yesterday. What were your impressions?
Well, I mean, initially, it's total crap.
Yeah.
But when you look, I try to look at it, objectively first. Like, what are they trying to do here? It's obvious that they're trying to get out in front of this, right? So this is the first real instance of them being thrown at, and they want to set the precedent that they're not going to let this happen. But after about 5 seconds of rational thinking, I started just losing my mind again because, okay, how can you suspend someone like Joe Kelly for the length of the term that you did, but then you go back and none of the Astros players who directly cheated against the game, not just for one season, but for multiple seasons, get, if you combine all of them, no games suspended. I'm trying to put this in a savvy way, but it's just blatantly BS, right? Like, it's just none of this adds up, and it's going to make everybody mad.
Yeah, but let me throw this at you. I'm just playing devil's advocate. One, I don't really think that Joe Kelly did it the right way. I mean, I thought he buzzed him a little too high to the head or neck area, which is inappropriate in my opinion. Okay, I understand if you want to drill somebody in the ribs or hit him in the butt or whatever or in the back. When you start throwing up a guy's head, to me, that insinuates that you're welcoming more of an issue. I think if he were to just hit him in the butt or hit him in the ribs, I don't even know if he would have been suspended. But then on his way out, he makes a childish, whatever that was. And I think that sort of maybe added a game or two. 8 games is a lot. I mean, when you break it down, I think they came out with the math that it's the equivalent of, like 22 games over 162. So it's a lot. But I thought there was a way to do it, and I don't know if Joe Kelly did it in the right manner after the commissioner has already publicly said that if there is any sort of brawl whatsoever, you're going to face massive suspension and fines because of the COVID situation. And also, we're not going to let this happen to the Astros. Now, I think that's bogus, but you got to understand that there were some parameters set that Joe Kelly clearly broke.
Okay, fair enough. But if you watch the entire inning,
Yeah.
from the first pitch, Joe Kelly had no command over his fastball. So he started off. So it would have been Bregman. He started off Bregman 3-0 with fastballs. And so, Joe Kelly from the St. Louis days is an awesome guy. Like, people like this guy. I personally just am going to err on the side of Joe Kelly wasn't trying to throw at his head. I think he just kind of threw it up and in, maybe shoulder or bicep, and it just kind of ran on him a little bit. So that's the way I looked at it. And if you look later in the inning when he faced Correa, he still couldn't command the fastball. And so I think he threw him 4 straight benders and eventually got him to swing and miss. But I think 2 or 3 pitches in a row, he threw hanging sliders, and Correa just hit him foul. So I think he knew he didn't have the command of the fastball, and maybe Joe was just like, flicks the cigarette, let's just do this, and let's just get it over with. So that's the way that I looked at it. And I think if you talk to Joe Kelly, he would probably agree with you, like, I'm not going to throw at this guy's head. But the part that I like the most, because, so Altuve, scum, but he's just a little shrimpy weirdo. Carlos Correa is just he thinks he's hard. He's not. He's just like he's the kid growing up who would wear like those phyton necklaces that are supposed to make you have better balance. And he'd wear like 8 of them. That's Carlos Correa. And then there's the guy that I don't like the most is Bregman, with those little T-Rex arms and how he makes the team list him at 6 feet tall when he's really like 5'8" or 5'9". He's got short man syndrome. And the best part was he walks Bregman because he goes way up and in. Bregman obviously was terrified because Kelly's humming in at 98. Gets over to first, and what does Kelly do? He tries to pick him off at first like 4 times in a row. And so Bregman's having to dive in while he's throwing 98 at his ribs. And I thought that was the best part of the whole thing.
So you don't think any part of Joe Kelly's wildness was maybe just convenient for him to be wild? Setting the stage for it to say, like, well, I had no command of my fastball. I didn't know where it was going. I have a hard time believing these are major league pitchers, dude.
I think the only way that I would scold Joe Kelly in this, since it's against the Astros, is if he would have gone to home plate, grabbed Correa's helmet, and Miles Garretted him with the helmet. That's the only way that I think that I would have gotten upset with Joe Kelly there.
And believe me, I'm just playing devil's advocate. I thought what Joe Kelly did was appropriate. Do I wish he would have kept it below the shoulders? Yes. But I'm just trying to give reasons as to why, because everyone's saying the same thing. Everyone's saying, I don't have a problem with Joe Kelly did, but he threw it at his head. And so where do you lean on where that what should have been the right suspension? None?
Well, before I say that, you have to think that Alex Bregman is like 5'7", 5'8". So if you were throwing to a normal-sized big leaguer, that would have hit him in the shoulder, even though it says 6 foot on Bregman's game card.
Wait, how tall are you? You're not that much taller than I, and I'm 5'8".
Oh, I'm 5'11".
You're 5'11"?
With a good pair of shoes, the top of my cap, the little thing on the top of my cap will hit the 6 foot.
With your hair slicked back and poofed up? Yeah.
Yeah. As far as a suspension goes,
I
mean, I think 0, but that's not what it is. I mean, he's going to get suspended for something like this, and I thought 2 games would have been fine.
I thought 2 games would have been appropriate.
Yeah.
It sends a message, but it's not overwhelming. 8 games is just absurd. Again, the hypocrisy there where you didn't suspend any Astros player for literally cheating in the World Series and throughout the postseason and who knows how long, probably 3 years worth of cheating. And yet for throwing at 2 guys who blatantly lied about not cheating, he gets suspended 8 games and the manager gets 1. I mean, I'm sorry, but I thought, I was giving kudos to Rob Manfred at the start of this week for saying the Marlins did this, that, and the other. We're playing on. I was saying, you know what, that's a tough spot to be in. Knives are out for him. Till 48 hours later saying this is a joke. Rob Manfred, I mean, what are you doing?
Yeah, great point with that, too, because I'm in the same boat. With the whole Marlins thing, Rob Manfred could have just put his tail between his legs and just canceled the whole thing just because of this one outbreak. But it did. Then it came back that the Marlins were the only team that tested positive at all out of all the teams. So it was good that he got ahead of it. But then, like you said, he turns around and does something like this. And as I mentioned when I first started with this rant, he wants to get out ahead of it, right? He wants to just set the precedent that now the next guy who throws them is going to get 10 games or more than that, 2 weeks worth of games. So none of it adds up, and it's just incredibly frustrating that as fans we can't be there to jeer the Astros, and it just seems like they're getting away with what they did scot-free. People who follow baseball are most of the time baseball purists like you and I. You respect the integrity of the game so much, and just simple things like the DH bothers a lot of us, and I'm the fan of an American League team, and here we are with this 60-game sprint, both DH. So just little things like that irk us. I mean, it's just when you think about cheating the game for 3 years, having a World Series, and multiple pennants, and all this stuff it's all smoke, and it's frustrating that it's gotten to this point, and it's frustrating that it just seems like it keeps getting worse, especially with this 8-game suspension.
So, yeah, ultimately, I mean, Joe Kelly, I would guess he's got the opportunity to appeal this suspension. Whether or not he wins it is up for debate. I mean, I could see it getting slashed maybe down to 6 just because 8 seems so egregious. But I think you hit the nail on the head when now pitchers going forward, teams that want to retaliate against the Astros, you're going to have a hard, that's a tough thing to do now. I mean, unless you're just taking one for the team. But that 8 games to lose a quality arm, a veteran like Joe Kelly, is devastating, I think, in a shortened season like this.
Agree 100%. And what do you do? The MLB now has, with this season, they have a like no contact for brawl or no brawls,
No
right?
brawls.
They don't want brawls. You basically now can't even throw inside to the Astros. Like I said before, maybe the only thing is you just pick them off at first 10 times in a row and make them dive back to the bag, and then it's just tedious. I don't know how they're going to retaliate, and maybe I have to think on it some more. And it's just kind of unfortunate that it's gotten to this point. And you can see the response on Twitter. We're not alone just as fans. There's former big leaguers. Jared Weaver was tweeting about this stuff, and people all over the place like, this is just BS. I don't know what Manfred's doing.
Well, I retweeted Kyle Loesch, who I think has been a voice of reason in a lot of areas, going after Trevor Bauer, going after several, these new wave of personalities in baseball. And Kyle Loesch is a guy who pitched in the big leagues for a long time, made a bunch of money. And he just said, look, this is ridiculous. I mean, he basically agreed with what we've just been saying of how can you not suspend anybody for cheating in your game, and yet one guy does something about it. He essentially did America's job by throwing at both of those rats, and you get 8-game suspension. So that's disappointing. Let's move on. Let's continue with our baseball chat, but I want to ask you about the Royals. What's your take right here? I mean, they're hamstrung. I mean, their pitching has just been devastated by injury and COVID, so they're trying to piece it together. But yikes, losing to the Tigers like they have is probably not real fun.
Yeah, so the Royals are sitting at 2-4. Fourth game of the series coming night against the Tigers. Then they're back home for the home opener this weekend against the White Sox for 3 games. Then back on the road after that. So. Typical Royals early on, just not doing the fundamental things to get the job done. But the pitching has been decimated by injury and COVID. So they're still without Brad Keller, who's arguably, I think, their ace. And then a couple of other players without Jacob Junis as well, another starter. Then the 2014 first rounder, Foster Griffin, who's just making his big league debut on his birthday the other night, forearm strain, so he goes down, lose another arm. Then Mike Montgomery gets a lat strain. He's on the injured list. And so now they're just bringing guys up. And, hell, the team's just desperate for arms at this point. And, spring training is a really good time for pitchers to get in their groove, and they haven't really had that. So the Royals are walking guys, hitting batters. I mean, the other day they hit 2 batters in 1 inning. Both of them were hit on the helmet. Like, they're just not even close. They're not even close here. And so it's kind of frustrating to watch the most rawly talented player on the Royals, Adalberto Mondesi, already has 10 strikeouts. He's already been moved down in the lineup. So he was 2, then he went to 3. Now he's down to 6. And Matheny's had to have a conversation with him. He looks like he has terrible body language in the field. I really am not sure what the problem is. I mean, the guy is the son of a former big leaguer. He's had a big league bring up, right? I'm not sure what his problem is, but hopefully he gets it figured out. Only has a couple of hits. Did have a triple last night, but if the throw was online, he would have been out at third. But the bright spot for the Royals right now, and I've said it almost every time I come on this show, is that Whit Merrifield is a top 10 player, maybe even top 5 in the entire league. I'm not kidding. And people don't know about him because he's on the Royals. The guy's hitting .391, 440 OBP, 783 slugging, already has 9 hits, already has 2 home runs, 3 doubles, 7 RBIs, only 1 strikeout. In today's game, that's the highlight right there. So many guys are striking out. I'm not kidding you. You go watch a game. There's 6 outs in an inning. I would argue that you're going to get, on average, 2 to 3, 2.5. I put it at 2.5 as the over-under for strikeouts in an inning. People strike out all the time, and here you have a guy in Whit Merrifield who can play the outfield, play the infield, hit anywhere in the lineup for you, shorten his swing up with 2 strikes, just put the ball in play, get base hits. And it's refreshing that the Royals have a guy like this. He's everything Jose Altuve is, just without the buzzer. So he's just better. And I like to highlight guys like him because he's not paid unreal amount of money. He just comes to the ballpark every day with a chip on his shoulder and gets the job done. Whit Merrifield, to me, I know it's only been 6 games, But if you put together his career, the guy is a top 10 player in the entire league.
Yeah, I no question. I was ridiculed by my friends who I'm in a group chat with about Whit Merrifield. I said 2 years ago, I said the Cardinals could use a guy like Whit Merrifield, and they laughed. Why would you want a guy like Whit Merrifield? Oh, I don't know. He's just hitting 391 through 6 games, 18 total bases. He's got some pop. He can run. He can do everything. He can play any position. He's the most versatile player, and he's just a ball player, man. You could have give me a lineup full of Whit Merrifields, and I'll go to I'll go to task against anybody. So
I agree 100%. If I could critique one thing about Whit Merrifield is if he took off the batting gloves, he might be the biggest dirtbag in the entire world. If he ditched the batting gloves, that would be the only thing. But like you said, once people watch him, they just see Whit Merrifield. Who the hell is this guy? Some guy on the Kansas City Royals, and they don't even give him the time of day. But then you realize the guy is right up there, if not number one in hits year in and year out. What more could you want from your leadoff hitter? He gets on base, he rips bags, and the guy can, no joke, play every position on the field. I would argue if you put the catcher's pads on him, he'd be totally fine. Whit Merrifield's a hell of a ball player, but besides that, tough sledding for the Royals so far.
What about Brady Singer tonight? He had a good start. What was it, Saturday when they won that game in extra innings over the Indians, and he's going to turn 24 next week, but he's a top guy, and he looked real promising on Saturday.
Yeah, when I was on last week, we kind of previewed that and was super excited and thrilled with what he gave the Royals on during that game. And I believe, if I remember, I think he had 7 strikeouts through 5 innings or 8 strikeouts through 5 innings. So super impressive, right on par with the scouting report for him. But what I mentioned as my favorite part with him is his demeanor on the mound and how he's the kind of guy that when the catcher throws the ball back to him, he just snaps at it with his bare hand because he wants the ball back. He's the guy who's going to come in there and be a gamer and take control of the mound. And when he strikes somebody out, I noticed this, and I hadn't seen it before, he takes a big, wide lap to his left when he falls off the mound. Like, he is in control when he has the ball. And it was really cool to see it translate. The Tigers are a horrible team, so I hope that he continues what he did and picked up where he left off from Saturday. And 6:10 start time tonight. I'm looking forward to it. Brady Singer, let's go.
Absolutely. Why don't we do this? Johnny, you promote yourself a little bit here. Then we'll take a break. We'll come back and we'll get into some Chiefs news. Running back situation a bit interesting right now. But where can folks find you on the different socials?
Awesome. And thanks for this, man. I appreciate it. So as far as professionally, I am a real estate investor in this market and in Kansas City. I'm also a licensed realtor through Keller Williams. Pretty much the thing I specialize in is helping people invest, educating people on good ways to use their money as opposed to putting it into a savings account. I'm a huge believer in educating yourself on making your money work for you, and I think the best way to do that is through the real estate market, especially here in Springfield. Exciting news for me is that here we are Thursday. On Saturday, I'm putting a house on the market that I've been flipping myself for the past, I'd say, it'll be almost, once it closes, it'll be 8 months in here. So an 8-month flip that I'm happy to educate anybody about, answer any questions. I do some professional work through Instagram. Johnny Rowe _real estate is my handle there. And I also, I come on here with you every week and like to talk sports. I just like talking to people. And so if you want to talk to me about sports, hit me up on Twitter. That's sportstalk _JR. So here I am talking sports with you, but I also do some things professionally too. And I do thank you for the time here letting me plug that. Thank you.
He's Johnny Rowe. I'm Nate Lucas. We're going to take a break. We'll come back, talk some Chiefs news, get into some Sporting KC, other topics regarding Kansas City with our Kansas City insider, Johnny Rowe. Stay tuned. JOCK 98.7 FM. 10:25, rolling on through a Thursday, July 30th. Man, tomorrow will be our final show in July. Well, it's wild. Where does this time go? We're going to shift topics. Johnny Rowe is with us talking some Kansas City sports. And partner, news yesterday, we've seen a kind of an influx now of NFL players beginning to opt out. Laurent Duvernay-Tardif was the first to do so, the Canadian and doctor who's going to spend his time really focusing on the virus. But yesterday, Damian Williams, who led the Chiefs in rushing last season, has opted out. Your thoughts?
So I haven't. Whatever they want to do as far as opt out, it's to each their own. I
Yeah.
don't. It's not even about me agreeing, disagreeing. It's to each their own. That's fine. I haven't seen. I guess maybe it didn't look hard enough, but what the reason was, I didn't know if he said he had a newborn, like some of the other players, or a family member. Regardless, I think the cool thing about this and what's really going to be exciting to watch is the opportunity that's just opened itself up for first round selection, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. A guy that the Chiefs took in the first round. A lot of people think drafting a running back in the first round now is old news and a bad pick. But if this was 4 or 5 years ago, this guy would have been selected in the top 10, like guys like Ezekiel Elliott, Leonard Fournette. So I think this is really exciting. And a lot of the time with these running backs, if you think back to Kareem Hunt, the reason Kareem Hunt got a shot with the Chiefs early on was because incumbent running back Spencer Ware blew his knee out. And so that's why he got all the opportunity in the first game that year against the Patriots. So here we are, the incumbent running back in Damian Williams opts out of the season for personal issues with COVID. Here comes Clyde Edwards-Helaire, first round selection, so you know he's going to get the opportunity and has all the skill sets. I mean, when you have a guy like Andy Reid, first ballot Hall of Famer, respected around the league to the utmost degree, and knows what the hell he's talking about on offense, when he says he compares him to Brian Westbrook, even though he's better than Brian Westbrook, I don't think that's lip service. I think that's true. I trust Andy Reid with that stuff, and I pretty much trust everything that Brett Veach says these days, too. And so if Brett Veach likes a guy, and Andy Reid likes a guy, and whether or not the story is true, if Patrick Mahomes wanted them to draft this guy, let's go, man. Get on the Clyde Edwards-Helaire train. Let's do this. I'm excited to see what he can do, not just from a running standpoint, a pass-catching standpoint, and just overall mentality at the running back position. Edwards-Helaire, yesterday or the day before, they asked him about what it's like learning the playbook, what it's like knowing that as a running back in this league, pass protection is a big thing. He was all about it. He's ready to pass pro. He doesn't care that he's 5'8", 205 pounds, which when you think about is an absolute bowling ball. He's ready for every task that comes with being a professional running back, not just the good things of catching touchdowns.
So where do you think, though, that with the absence of Damian Williams, who can slide into that role without skipping a beat? Because Damian kind of did a whole lot of things. I mean, you trusted him in pass protection. You could use him on third down. He did a lot of things for the Chiefs' offense that you can't necessarily just throw right on a rookie.
Yeah, so if we look at the rest of the depth chart for the Chiefs as far as running back goes, not counting practice squad guys, the three other running backs that they have besides Edwards-Helaire are newcomer DeAndre Washington, another similar guy, and he's the shorter, stockier, pass-catching back, can also run a few times for you, but he's not the guy that you're going to give 20 to 30 carries to. Former Texas Tech Red Raider, so he has that relationship previously with Patrick Mahomes. Beyond that, you have Darwin Thompson, who was a 6th-round pick a couple of years ago.
The termite.
The termite. Similar build, right? Short, stocky. The knock on him is he might not be the most naturally gifted or elusive, but he does have incredible balance when he runs and is strong. I mean, if you look at pictures of the guy, you'd think he was, a superhero.
His pass pro was a problem. That's why he couldn't get on the field, though, last year.
A good point, yeah. So something, hopefully, he's had a year to learn the playbook, and maybe something that if he can do well with, can get him some playing time on the field. And if you look, the only true, real bulldozing kind of running back they have is Darrell Williams, second or third year on the team, undrafted out of LSU, but he's kind of the guy that they used in some role last year as that goal line back, kind of like the more north and south runner that they have. So they do have that kind of guy, but they have a surplus of that running back that's kind of like Damian Williams, right? The more pass catcher, pass pro, elusive stretch runner. And so I think that's kind of the look they're going to go for. I really don't think that they're going to miss a beat, to be honest with you, Nate, because Damian Williams, before he came to the Chiefs, was just a guy like DeAndre Washington, or a guy like, he was the Dolphins were fine to just let him walk, and the Dolphins were not a team that were in any position to push for playoffs or even Super Bowl aspirations, and they were fine letting a guy like him go. And the Chiefs picked him up on the cheap, and he's done well. So I don't think they're going to miss a beat, to be honest with you.
Well, and you know what? I think when you have a quarterback like 15, he makes it very he's so compatible that he'll put you in the right spot to be successful. You just focus on the mechanics and what you need to do, and I think Patrick Mahomes will steer you in the right direction. They've signed a couple of guys, one to replace, maybe not replace, but for depth purposes on the offensive line, and it looks like they just signed a safety that was formerly with Seattle. What can you tell us there?
So as far as the offensive line goes, I think this is a really good move. Kelechi Osemele is right around 30 years old, and if any Chiefs fans remember, there were a few years ago, the Oakland Raiders had a really good offensive line. They had Donald Penn left tackle, Kelechi Osemele at guard, Rodney Hudson still their center. They had a really good left side of that offensive line. And what ended up happening was, I believe he got moved over to the Jets, picked up an injury, and then Osemele is somebody who started getting into a feud with the medical staff with the Jets, ended up not playing anymore, and here he is on the Chiefs. I think it's a good move. And again, things are going so well for the Chiefs right now. It's like they've struck gold. I'm waiting for a bad thing to happen. But like I said a few minutes ago, if Brett Veach likes the guy, sign me up. So Osemele, big-bodied guard, more of the bruiser type. I'm not sure how quick he is laterally still. Like I said, he's about 30 years old, but I'm good with that pick. They also have a couple other guys they brought in, like a guy named Mike Remmers, who was on the Giants previously. So they've got some guys to work with there as far as interior offensive line goes. And then the other guy was Tedrick Thompson, I think is how you say it.
Yeah.
Former fourth-round pick, safety for Seattle. This might just be that deep safety insurance because you have Juan Thornhill coming back from knee surgery. So that might be why they did that. And if anybody is asking how can they make these moves, where are they getting this money, I believe a couple million, maybe 2.5 freed up with Duvernay Tardif opting out. And then here, some more is going to come free with Damian Williams opting out. So I believe neither of them had the medical opt-out choice, so they'll both get the $150,000 stipend, or the advance of their contract. Some money frees up from the books there, and that's how they do that. But other than knowing that Tedrick Thompson is a deep kind of center field safety, that's all I really know about him.
So Chiefs training camp situation, what's the latest and where have the rookies? I know they went in and tested and they got to wait, but what's the protocol here moving forward?
So I believe we're getting to the acclimation period. I think that they were doing some testing that was early on. That's pretty much all the guys were doing, right? They'd come in, test, eat together, and then go through some meetings, but they're not doing anything really football related. And now the veterans are starting to report, and they'll do the testing for them and then get into that acclimation period. All I've really seen for the rookies is that they've taken their pictures with their new numbers on. It's crazy to me seeing somebody else wear 25, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire hopefully can pick up at least something close to what Jamal Charles left, and really exciting to see you guys move forward. The seventh round pick, they've got a guy named Bo Pete Keys. He's wearing 29, so it's interesting seeing somebody else wear Eric Berry's number, and it's really exciting. I think we're 42 days out from September 10th, the opener for the Chiefs. I'm a little worried for how it's going to look. Hopefully we make it there and there's no outbreaks or anything. But like we talked about before, it's exciting to know that the Chiefs have all this continuity coming back, and in a weird COVID year like we're having right now, it's really exciting for the Chiefs who are moving forward. Excited to see what comes from this training camp.
Well, and the richest player ever in North American history is making some purchases. Patrick Mahomes, after he signed for $500 million, not only did we learn that he's become a minority owner in the Kansas City Royals, but he's sporting a new vehicle. Have you seen the new Ferrari that he's been racing around town?
Yeah, I wonder if Louis Riddick, the guy who gave him that nickname, Ferrari, is wanting Pat to throw some coin over, at least pick him up and take him for a spin in that new Ferrari. That'd be, think about this. That'd be pretty cool, right? You're 24 years old. You've got a mansion on a golf course in Overland Park, Kansas, which, if you're not familiar with the area, is a really, really nice area. You're a league MVP, Super Bowl MVP, Super Bowl champion, all pro. You've only been playing for 3 years. You've got bionic knees that are apparently indestructible. You know, you're invited on all these shows. You're going on trips. You're a good golfer. And instead of blowing all your money at strip clubs or wherever these guys do all this stuff, he decides to invest. And as I mentioned before, I think that is so cool. Like, the guy is just really mature for his age. It's obvious that he was raised by good parents. He was raised in an environment from a young age around adults. He doesn't care about the clout. He cares about making smart decisions for himself, for his family. Man, he does a lot of cool stuff, doesn't he?
He sure does.
He's a cool guy.
And now he drives a pretty cool car. You got to be able to spend some of it on yourself, you know?
Yeah, I bet the cop who pulls him over the first time is going to ask him for an autograph instead of giving him an autograph, if you know what I mean.
I do. All right, lastly, partner, Sporting KC will face Philadelphia Union tonight, and Sporting KC has got a good thing rolling down there in Orlando.
Quarterfinals open up tonight. Oh, I love when you give me some time to talk about soccer.
Sure.
So, yeah, quarterfinals open tonight of the MLS's Back tournament. So Sporting is one of 8 teams remaining. They do play Philadelphia at 7 o'clock tonight. I don't know if it's on ESPN or the other. But their last game was on Sunday versus the Vancouver Whitecaps, and it was a grinded-out game. So Sporting dominated that entire game. Vancouver was crushed by injuries. They're on their third-string goalkeeper who apparently is the best goalkeeper in the world because he was standing on his head the entire time. After an entire 90 minutes plus stoppage time, the game was at 0-0. Sporting had like over 30 shots and just could not find the back of the net. One of those
on
games
goal?
that was
30 shots on goal?
No, I believe it was like 8 to 12 or something like that on goal. But it was like a club record for shots in a game. They were peppering the goal the entire time, but just couldn't find that last, touch in the final third to finish it off. But it went to PKs. So the interesting thing about this tournament, usually soccer tournaments go when in the knockout stage, regulation, extra time, then they'll go with 2 15-minute halves of extra time to take you into penalty kicks. They've eliminated that extra time, and they just go straight from stoppage time to penalty kicks to save them the 30 minutes there. So it went right to penalty kicks, and thankfully Sporting has the best penalty-saving goalie in the history of MLS. Tim Melia, it ended up being 3-1 in penalties. So Tim Melia saved 3 of the penalties, I believe, and one of them was just missed. Two of them, and one of them was missed off of the post. But Tim, here's a cool stat. He's 5-0 as a pro in shootouts, and among goalkeepers in MLS history with 10 penalties faced, he has the lowest goals conceded percentage at 58%. So essentially, it's 50-50 whether or not you're going to score or he's going to save it in penalties, which if you are a soccer fan or if you watch soccer at all, you realize is an insane number. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're kicking it from 12 yards out. The goal is huge. I mean, it's not like a shootout in hockey. I mean, it's really difficult to save one, and I think that's really good. And here Sporting are in the quarterfinals of the MLS's Back tournament against the Union tonight at 7 p.m. Really exciting stuff.
Johnny Rowe, anything else that we didn't check off your list there that we need to be informed of?
Well, I'm looking here. Let me see. Royal Sporting, Rob Manfred sucks. Joe Kelly should be freed. No, man, I think we're good. I'm excited for how things are right now. Like I said, my house is going on the market on Saturday, so all my eggs are really in that basket right now. And then we're going to go from there. Hopefully it gets sold and I can get over to Jim's for a steak and enjoy my weekend.
Well, don't forget about me when you go to Jim's. I'd love to join you.
Hey, now.
All right, partner. You be well. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll catch up next week.
Looking forward to it, man. Stay safe, everybody.
Sounds good. Johnny Rowe, our Kansas City insider, joining us. We'll take a break, and we'll come back with more. We'll go around the league and hear what happened last night around Major League Baseball next. JOCK 98.7 FM.